16 years ago, two babies are accidentally switched at birth. In the present, Nagi Yumino is to meet his biological parents for the first time. Nagi sees a girl, Erika Amano, about to jump from a bridge and pulls her back. She explains she was recording a video for Anusta, on which she is an internet celebrity, to antagonize her wealthy parents into letting her out of an arranged marriage. She instead blackmails Nagi into pretending to be her boyfriend. Several of Erika's fans attempt to beat Nagi for dating Erika, but Nagi beats them instead, revealing his adoptive parents are former delinquents. Erika follows through on her decision and punches him. Nagi returns to school and sees Hiro Sagawa, his academic rival and crush whom he has decided to only confess to once he has beaten her exam scores, as she once told him she would only date a man smarter than herself. Meanwhile, Naga's sister, Sachai, realizes the revelation means they aren't blood-related siblings. Nagi is surprised when Erika visits his home. Due to her wealthy upbringing, Erika is completely out of touch with normal life and struggles to believe Nagi's entire family lives in such a small house. She invites Nagi to her family home, an opulent mansion, also revealing they own 6 similar homes throughout Japan and other countries. Nagi begins to have serious doubts a marriage between them would work and decides he needs to reject their engagement. Erika suddenly rejects him first and demands to see his parents and tell them so. Walking Erika home, Nagi meets her father, his biological father, who is confident that despite their unusual meeting, they will do well as a married couple. So confident, in fact, that to prove it he has bought them a house and insists they live there together for 2 weeks. Nagi decides to spend the 2 weeks studying for his next exam to defeat Hiro. He hears Erika scream and barges into the bathroom, finding her completely naked, having been startled by a harmless lizard. Nagi is forced to borrow Erika's study materials in exchange for taking pictures for her social media. By accident, they take several pictures that make them look like a couple. Nagi explains he is obsessed with studying so he can support his parents when they retire, whereas Erika likes social media because she hopes if she becomes famous, someone she has been looking for will contact her. Nagi discovers he has actually defeated Hiro in the exam, and Hiro asks to meet him alone. Nagi expects her to confess now he has proven he is smart enough for her, but instead she declares she only lost because she missed the exam due to a family funeral, and she will beat him on the next exam. Her competitiveness makes Nagi admire her even more. Nagi catches a cold and passes out still trying to study. Erika looks after him and admits his devotion to studying impressed her, surprising Nagi as everyone else keeps telling him he studies too much. Hiro is shown to be pushing herself even harder so she can defeat Nagi. Hiro asks Nagi why he tried so hard to beat her, so explains how he knew she would only date someone smarter than her. Hiro reminds him this was only the first exam he has beaten her in, whereas she has beaten him in 10. She also reveals she is already engaged. Erika reminds Nagi it is his last night living with her, and they agree to tell their parents they hated the experience. However, Nagi learns his family moved into a hotel after a pipe burst at their home, forcing him to continue living with Erika. Erika gives Sachai some of her dresses after learning she only owns her school uniform and Naga's hand-me-down boys' clothes. She also lets Sachai know she and Nagi have no intention of going through with the marriage. Before she leaves, Sachai takes a picture with Erika. Nagi tries to avoid Hiro but is surprised when Hiro approaches him asking to study together, giving him hope she prefers him to her fiancé. They realize they both collect commemorative Shinto shrine stamps, so they compete over collecting the most stamps. Hiro asks if they can study together every morning, and Nagi considers telling her he is engaged. As class rep, Hiro shows Erika the school, and Nagi is terrified of what might happen if his fiancé and his crush become friends. He eventually decides Erika needs a real friend, unlike the shallow girls at her previous school, and helps her, for which Erika is grateful. Hiro is suspicious at how Nagi knows so much about Erika, so she claims he is a fan, causing another bout of competitiveness between them, as Hiro turns out to be a big fan of Erika. Hiro invites Erika to attend her and Naga's study sessions, making Nagi feel even more awkward. Nagi admits to Erika that he confessed to Hiro, so she decides to help him. At their first study session, Erika literally dresses as Cupid, but her efforts fail. The way they argue makes Hiro suspicious due to how close they act. Hiro asks if she can visit Erika's home to study. Hiro finally leaves and the next day invites them to her home to study, revealing her family manages the local shrine where Nagi is able to collect their shrine stamp. She suspected he would probably give up his future plans to run the shrine with her, and didn't want to place that burden on him. Privately, Nagi decides he can run the shrine and must learn more about Hiro's family. A field trip to Kamakura approaches, and while Erika refuses to go, she manipulates Nagi into going by helping him form a group with Hiro. Hiro insists their group project be a contest to collect the most shrine stamps. Erika reveals one of her fans from class named Shin has forced his way into Nagi's group, having mistakenly assumed Erika would be in the group, so she agrees to go to prevent him bothering Nagi and Hiro. Shin turns out to be an annoying superfan, but does help Erika take excellent photos. Nagi asks about the mystery person Erika has been searching for, and she warns him knowing who the person is would change his future. Hiro asks Nagi on a date to an amusement park, but he is disappointed when she admits she needed him for the two-person discount. She apologizes for having left him during the trip to Kamakura as she had gotten lost. She takes Erika to a baseball center, and then to a public bath where Erika admits she is glad Sachai is her sister. But Sachai is still upset everything is changing. Returning from his date, Sachai makes sure to torment Nagi over it. Meanwhile, Erika decides to invite her mother to the bathhouse. Erika spends Mother's Day with her mother, Ritsuko. Sachai decides to get their mother, Nami, a gift and seeks Nagi's help. Eventually, they decide on an apron she can wear in the restaurant. Nagi pats Sachai's head for thinking of the idea, which annoys her that he is treating her like a little sister. They deliver the apron but leave without being seen. Erika tells Ritsuko she sometimes thinks Nagi might be better marrying Sachai. Erika notices the tense atmosphere when Nagi explains about the accidental kiss, points out just how much he screwed up. He might consider Sachai his little sister, but Sachai is almost a grown woman and not even his blood relative. Since Erika has never experienced jealousy before, Nagi has to explain that jealousy means she must like him. This infuriates her, so she blurts out she doesn't like him yet, then runs away. The yet confuses Nagi, and he starts to wonder if maybe he likes Erika. Nagi does so and becomes even more confused when he feels Erika and Hiro and Sachai all have equal places in his heart. Erika later receives a text from Nagi stating he also doesn't like her yet. The next day, Hiro is unexpectedly late to their morning study session, but when she does arrive and hears Nagi and Erika arguing like usual, she decides to leave and becomes even more distant from Nagi. Nagi is depressed until he receives a sudden summons from Hiro to meet her. Erika is convinced Hiro has given up on Nagi after his disastrous exam results, and is probably going to permanently reject him. However, Hiro is unconcerned with his grades and is more upset that it was Erika who made him feel better, and not her, his academic rival. Erika asks for his help to fix her own terrible grades, revealing if she fails any of her next exams, her parents will force her to move back home with them. After a weekend of intense study, Erika gets a passing grade. So Akiro is happy his plan to manipulate Erika worked. Sachai invites Erika to a festival near their parents' diner, though she and Nagi are expected to help run their parents' yakisoba stall. Sachai is irritated he won't be going with her and Erika. Later, Hiro meets Erika and Sachai together, but is confused how Sachai is somehow both Erika and Nagi's sister. Erika decides this summer has been her favorite, even compared to summers she spent with her parents on foreign holidays. They watch the fireworks together, and both Sachai and Hiro are disappointed they didn't get to watch them with Nagi. Hiro catches up to them and finally asks how they are related since them both claim Sachai is their sister. Nagi feels guilty, so they finally tell Hiro about being switched at birth and now engaged. Hiro makes Nagi promise to never keep another secret, and he agrees, though their interaction is seen by Sachai. Nagi returns home happier than ever while Sachai asks Erika about Hiro.